Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. Good morning, happy Halloween to you all. With that being said, let's get into this. Today we are talking about ground deformation. It's not a secret anymore that the ground in Farming Simulator 25 will deform. But you want some details, don't you? Well, go and get some. New screenshots visualizing how the ground will deform. Alongside new screenshots visualizing how the ground will deform, senior software engineer Eddie Edwards from Giant Software will go further into detail on how it actually works. And I need to clean my glasses, one sec. Eddie, tell us about you and your position first. What's your role? I'm one of the senior engine programmers for Farming Simulator. I've been at Giant since the early days of FS13. I created the original PlayStation 3 port, and I've been responsible for other ports of the Giant's engine to PS4, PS5, Switch, and iOS. I'm very much the PlayStation guy at the company, but I also work on cross-platform engine technology such as density maps, rendering, shader, compilers, some physics, audio, etc. There's not much in the Giant's engine that I haven't worked on to some extent over the last 12 years, and in particular, of course, I created the new technologies that bring us ground deformation for FS25, the improved density map system, the new terrain geometry system, and the terrain virtual texturing system. Firmness and velocity, how the ground deforms. Depending on the ground type, the deformation and compression of the soil is dependent on multiple factors. Take a look. Let's see here. So, your fields are going to be affected by rain now? That definitely changes things. Oh, that looks so good. Those tracks they're tire tracks. I mean, they're not, they maybe look like an inch deep. Really? How deep they are? We're probably not going to be able to tell until we did our hands on it in a couple of weeks. But the mud on the tires there, so cleaning your vehicles is going to be more of a thing, it seems like. Yeah, that's probably about like an inch deep there, I would say. And I also think that the, weight of your vehicle will also, factor into how deep the ruts are, as I'm going to call them. Anyway, which factors define how the ground deforms? A number of factors affect this. Firstly, every ground type has a different level of firmness and velocity. Tarmac cannot be deformed at all, for instance, while mud can be deformed a lot due to different firmness, and driving on snow instantly crushes it, while driving on mud causes it to compress over a longer time due to different velocity. Also, if the ground is wet, this affects the deformation as well. Which vehicle you are driving also affects the deformation. The weight of the tractor and the width of its tires both affect the reaction of the terrain, and a slower moving vehicle will sink faster than a fast moving vehicle. So does that mean your tires are gonna matter? Because right now in the game, it's pretty much what tires look good to you. How does ground deformation affect gameplay? What will players feel? For the first time, Farming Simulator 25 gives a real physical response from the terrain. You will feel the tractor bumping over the ground, and you will see it creating ruts and tracks. I was right. And if you go back and drive over those ruts and tracks, you will feel the effect from them as well. It is also harder to steer if you have dug into the ground, just as it is in real life. Driving in rain will be more difficult than driving when it is sunny. Your tire configuration now has a greater effect too. That answers my question there. And you may need to consider which tires are best to use for different seasons and different types of field work. Whoa, 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 whoa. Look at the detail in that bridge. That's awesome. The fun of plowing. Plowing on another level. While the deformation on the soil is individual to the machines, their weight, and other conditions, one field activity in particular will probably feel a whole lot different in Farming Simulator 25. I almost said 22. I almost messed up there. What kind of machines equipment will showcase ground deformation best? Plowing is a new experience now. The plow creates real physical furrows, which can not only be seen more clearly on screen, but also affects the tractor when driving over them. Also, machines with caterpillar tracks come into their own now, as they can handle uneven ground so well. I blame time change because the time has changed in Germany, but it hasn't here yet until Saturday. So this is an hour earlier, so I'm a little bit more tired than usual, so therefore, yeah. Take that with what you will. That is very cool. These definitely seem more defined, and it definitely seems like we're getting the same amount of stones as in 22. Did we look at this one yet? Huh? What does that look? That is very detailed. Unless there's some sort of like wireframe or something on here. That looks very detailed. Want to know more? Let's talk performance, visuals, and challenges. What were the technical challenges in implementing ground deformation? The ground deformation works on a grid size of 12.5 centimeters, which works out to 16 kilometers by 16 kilometers for a 2-kilometer map. That's 256 megapixels. The map itself is only 4 megapixels. There were various technical challenges while sorting this data efficiently and also with processing the data effectively. For instance, when tools like cultivators or plows work on the fields, and when vehicles drive over the fields and react to those fine scale bumps and ridges. There is also a procedural level of ground deformation, which is mapped with geometry in a similar way to how the terrain is texture mapped with images, except it runs on the CPU instead of on the faster GPU, so we had to heavily optimize this code. Interesting? How is ground deformation data stored and managed? Since ground deformation works at a higher resolution than we've dealt with before, we wanted to save memory in areas which are not deformed, on rocky mountains, or in places where the player has not yet been, so we created a sparse version of the density maps. This stored tiles of data only in regions where deformation actually exists. Furthermore, to reduce memory footprint even more, the tiles are all compressed using a more advanced version of the existing density map compression that we've used in the past. Additionally, to support fast operations on this high-resolution data, we created a density map processing unit, DPU, which is like a little GPU emulator that runs on the CPU and is capable of performing operations on density maps at much higher speeds than previously. It can actually be programmed using our in-house shader language, although the feature is not used in FS25 yet. Interesting? I know some of this might not be interesting to you guys, which is why I read this last. Sometimes I read these bottom things first, but we did it last this time because I know this computer tech stuff might not be interesting to a lot of you guys. For speed, the whole system, data compression, DPU operations, and procedural generations is written using native SIMD instructions. There are far more SIMD optimized code in this version of Farming Simulator than we've ever had before. Tell us about how you optimize deformation physics for performance. Previous versions of Farming Simulator, the custom vehicle physics was dealing with terrain at a resolution of 0.5 meters with terrain deformation and displacement. The resolution is now 0.125 meters, 4 times greater in each direction, or 16x as many triangles. This made our wheel versus terrain collision detection 16 times slower, so we wrote a custom implementation of this for FS25, which is approximately 30 times faster than the old code. So overall, our vehicle physics is now about twice as fast as before, even with all the new features. The new physics code involves some quite heavy math and numerical analysis. Fortunately, I have a master's degree in mathematics, which helped me a lot on this task. How does the game handle visual transitions for ground deformation? Another new feature for FS25 is the terrain quad tree mesh, which enables high-resolution triangles rendered near the player, but uses a lower resolution further away. There's no need to render the deformed geometry when it is hundreds of meters away. The geometry smoothly morphs from deformed to not deformed some distance from the player. However, this transition is quite well hidden because of another new technology in FS25, which is a terrain virtual texture system. Although deformation is not rendered in the distance using triangles, it is still shaded and rendered into the terrain texture using a graphics technique called normal mapping. So the deformation is still clearly visible even on distant areas where the rendered triangle count is very low. You can see the tracks left by the AI vehicles even if you are watching them from half a kilometer away. What do you personally like most about ground deformation in the game? It was a very rewarding experience to implement all these new technologies. And I love the fact that the result is not only a better visual experience for the player, but also that it interacts with physics and gameplay in such interesting ways, making FS25 a much more interesting and realistic simulator than ever before. Actually, hold up. I need to unmute desktop audio so that you can actually hear this. I will start this over. Alright, we're gonna watch this through once, and then we're gonna pause it and go over some things I noticed.
Here's a cool new feature for Farming Simulator 25.
By operating heavy machinery, you will leave your marks in the ground. The heavier the vehicle, the deeper the tire tracks. Plowing in particular is a lot of fun when looking at the deformation of the soil. And don't forget to clean your machines when you're done. There's some mud stuck in the tread of the tires.
This video gives some better images than the actual images did.
25.
Like right here, this back and forth is very cool. Looking here, I think that's less than an inch. So I definitely think that, like they said, how deep the ruts are gonna be depends on the weight of the vehicle. These things look more like just the tire tracks than ruts, honestly. In fact, it is. That tractor barely left any rut at all. That's pretty much just tire tracks. Now, is this weeds? Or is this like the harvested state of some crop? And yeah, the stones and the stone like placement, for a lack of a better word, definitely looks the same as 22. And these, plowed areas, I might call them ruts if I will, because I'm not sure the exact word. It's slipping off my brain right now. These definitely look more like formed than 22. So that's cool. So, with all that being said, as it is Halloween today, there will be no stream tonight, so next stream will be tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern over on Kick. But in a couple hours here or so, maybe even less, probably gonna stay up. So in an hour or two, at the most, there will be a Halloween video over on the YouTube. If you are watching this here on Twitch, do not forget to follow. That is greatly appreciated. And if you are watching this over on YouTube, this will be also over on YouTube in a few minutes here. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And on both platforms, remember, I am still working my way towards a Giants partner, and I am sitting at right around 100 points left, if you guys know what that means. But I will see you all, actually, tomorrow morning, for around the same time, probably around 9:30, for fact sheets. So, have a good Halloween, and I will see you all later.